Good afternoon, everybody. Stephen Howson here, and today I want to talk to you about Marcus Rashford. Specifically, how good is he and how good can he be? So let's start with the how good is he. So Marcus Rashford has broke into the team. He's banged a brace against Midtjylland and against Arsenal, where he got man of the match on his Premier League debut. He scored the winner in the Manchester derby, becoming the youngest goal scorer in a Manchester academy, and he's now got 5 in 8 for the first team, aged just 18 years old. The temptation to overhype somebody when they do that is massive, isn't it? But how good is he actually? Let's break it down minute by minute. Since Louis van Gaal's come as Manchester United manager, Manchester United strikers have struggled, and we've had Robin van Persie, Wayne Rooney, Falcao, Anthony Martial, Javier Hernandez, all struggle to find the net consistently, to score goals at the level that you would expect. Every single one of them has underperformed, which leads you to think that it's probably not them, it's probably something to do with either the system, the management, or something else. Marcus Rashford has come in and he's not only bettered them, he's like bucked the trend of what a striker does in the Manchester United side, because he's extremely direct. His goals to game, or goals to minute ratio, he's the equal best in the Premier League. And he's equal best alongside Sergio Aguero. Goals per minute generally sifts the wheat from the chaff. Sometimes you'll get players who go on and they'll score quite a lot. Goals per shot and goals per minute, generally the cream rises to the top a little bit with that. I can't find the stats for the goals to shots. Harry Kane, I think, is the best one at the moment in the Premier League for goals to shots. Shots on target, that is, at least. Which means they're very clinical. And then the goals per minute shows how often they're able to be clinical. But now that's not always their doing. Sometimes the team has to take credit for the way they're doing that. But when you've got the data that we've got for United, and we've seen the level, or so-called level, of striker that we've had fail to consistently score goals, then we've got Marcus Rashford, who's now averaging 1 goal every 112 minutes. So that's just outside of a goal a game. The same as Sergio Aguero, who is an elite centre-forward. Probably in the top 4 or 5 in the world, I would say. Now, is Marcus Rashford at that level? You can't say that. You can't say that after 8 games. I think you need at least 2, arguably 3 seasons of consistency. So you would need to probably play 3 seasons of 30 plus games, so maybe even 100 matches. And after 100 matches, if he's somewhere in the region of 112, 120, even 125, 130 minutes per goal, then he can be considered an elite striker. And that's obviously 3 years down the line for us at the moment. We're not going to see that until he's 21. We might have the new Michael Owen on our hands. We might have a pacey striker that's unafraid, that goes on and hits the heights. And we don't know, because no one's got a crystal ball. That's the problem with the youth players, is that you never know what you've got until you give it the chance to sink or swim. Marcus has proven that he's a goal scorer, scoring at every single level. He broke into the Manchester United under-18s academy side at 15 years of age. In his first season as an under-16, he scored 4 goals in 12 starts. It's not amazing, but he's playing 3 years ahead of him at elite Premier League academy level. So it's not bad going. In his second season, this is more of a full season for him. He managed 13 in 25. Now that's a pretty good ratio of goals to games, isn't it? And then this season he's managed 8 in 15, so it's just a little over 1 every 2. He's also scored and played. He's got 3 goals in 4 starts for the under-19s in the Europa League, and he's got 1 goal in 2 starts for the under-21 side this season. So we can say, regardless of the level that Marcus is played at, he's got a very good goals to game ratio. And I think players generally will always fall back to their average, more or less. So Marcus is actually playing Premier League level at his average. Now this is where it gets confusing, because you go, okay, so he's come in and he's done this now. How good's he going to be in 5 years? No idea is the honest answer. And I don't think potential how do I say this? I don't think players improve like this with potential. I think what happens is you see flashes of what a player can do in a game, and a player that fulfills his potential generally plays at that level more consistently, and that is fulfilling potential for me. I don't think players get massively better. I think players have always been of a certain level, of a certain ability, and you just see them producing it more consistently. So let's say Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, when we signed him in the early 2000s, he would come in and he would be beating players at will and taking shots and missing those shots. Now, did he improve when he started scoring a goal a game? Or did he just become more consistent? I think it's a consistency thing, and I think that's what separates world-class players from Sunday League players, League Two players, average Championship players, and the like. I think it's the ability to perform at that peak that you've got, but it's not just a peak, it can become a consistency. And I think that's what we might see with Marcus Rashford. He's come in and he's shown a consistency already. So if he can become more consistent, and that doesn't mean you don't look at a game as one instance. Look at a game as a series of instances. If he has 40 touches in a game, at the moment maybe he's doing something good with 18 of those touches or 24 of those touches. A consistently good player might do it with 30 of those touches or 34 of those touches or 36 of those touches. That's what you need to break the game down into, is these multiple little opportunities to do something in a game. And I don't think players get better at doing the thing. I think they just become more consistent at doing the correct thing. Now that's subjective, and that can change player to player, and that could just be complete nonsense. That's just my own interpretation of how I see player progression and development and how a player fulfills his potential. I don't think you get a player with the ability of a Gary Neville and they end up like a Cristiano Ronaldo. I think a Cristiano Ronaldo has always been Cristiano Ronaldo at under 14s, at under 15s, at under 17s, and they just become more consistent. They get more game experience, they relax into their role, and they just become more consistent. And I think that's, for me, what you have to strive for as a player: consistency. Sir Alex Ferguson famously says you can't expect consistency from young players. And maybe that's what changes a young player into a senior player, into a regular first team player, is just literally the level of consistency that a player is able to attain. So the biggest thing I think faces Marcus Rashford at the moment is the uncertainty around Manchester United. If Louis van Gaal was to stay in charge, we have no idea if the team is going to be successful or not. Is around a 50% win ratio. He needs to improve that if we're to be challenging and winning for the league. It needs to be around 60-65%. If we are to let Louis van Gaal go in the summer and Jose Mourinho comes in, then Marcus might have on his side that he's already establishing himself. He's not established, but he's establishing himself. He's not the unknown quantity. There is a known element about what you're going to get with Marcus Rashford. Now, Mourinho has played young players. He played Varane at 18 with Real Madrid, and he's done it in the past with several teenagers who have got quite a lot of games, and they've gone on to be very good players. So you're like, well, on one hand you can say Varane was always going to be a player. He's done it with Kurt Zouma at Chelsea. You can say, oh, Kurt Zouma was always going to be this first choice player. Well, that's with hindsight. At the time when you're playing them, you don't know that. Mourinho didn't give these lads their full debuts. They was given debuts elsewhere and brought in, and he's trusted those as players that he knows what they're capable of. So is the raft of debuts that we're seeing shop windowing are for these players for Mourinho? It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't surprise me. Now, if Louis van Gaal has been told that his contract will be terminated in the summer, you'd have to be a spiteful man to try and derail what's going on with Manchester United. If he's an honourable man, he's going to want to see the club continue, and he's going to want to leave his own legacy as well. And I think his own legacy can be giving the debuts to the likes of Timothy Fosu-Mensah, Joe Riley, Marcus Rashford. And I think there's more to come. Cameron Borthwick-Jackson as well. The big thing facing Marcus Rashford is how the new manager sees him. And I'm all but certain it's Jose Mourinho that's coming in the summer. I think Marcus has played himself into the contention where he's not undroppable, but he's a first choice centre forward for us at the moment. So with the remaining 9-10 games of the season, whatever it ends up being, If he can play in at least 6 of those as a starter, and he can score what he's scored so far, so let's call it another 4 goals. He's going to end the season then with 9. Okay, maybe 10. Let's say he pulls out 5 and scores 10. He's going to have scored 10 in probably 20, 21 games. That's a great record for a debut season. Can Mourinho come in and trust him? There's a lot of talk that Mourinho's been scouting Aubameyang, that Mourinho's been scouting Ibrahimovic, that Mourinho's been scouting on lining up Harry Kane. There seems to be a lot of talk around the fact that Manchester United are looking for a centre-forward. Now, in my eyes, Manchester United have got one of the best potential centre-forwards in the world in Anthony Martial. So if you're going to bring in another centre-forward, I can see the argument for an Ibrahimovic. Show these young lads some of the wily old tricks. We've got no old centre-forwards, and I include Rooney in that. I don't think he is the old wily centre-forward. I don't think he can show them how to hold it up. I don't think he can show them the lines to run, because Rooney's never been that out-and-out goal-scoring centre-forward. He's a different sort of player. Wayne Rooney's almost his own position. He's a bit of a free role that sort of does what he likes rather than teaching you the lines of a centre-forward. Stan Collymore, it's actually very good to listen to Stan Collymore if you can get past the outraged Stan Collymore, and when he just starts talking honestly about his experiences in the game, there's some gems in there. And Stan Collymore spoke about, I think, was it when he was with Mark Bright, possibly with Ian Wright as well? I'd have to check that, where he came from. There was some junior club, he was, sorry, not junior club, when he was a young apprentice, 17, 18, 19 years old, and he was saying about someone telling the lines to run, literally the lines that you need to run, the channels that you need to run, the way you hold the ball up, learning the trade as a centre-forward. And if Ibrahimovic can come in and do that, now he's not the most traditional centre-forward, he likes to drift off a little bit as well, but I think Ibrahimovic would be a player that the likes of Rashford and Martial could definitely learn from, could definitely benefit from. And I do see a similarity that just sheer unbreakable confidence that Ibrahimovic has got, the way Cantona had it, can rub off on these young lads, because we've got such a young side at the moment. The likes of Borthwick Jackson, Luke Shaw, Timothy Fosu-Mensah, Pereira, Januzaj, even the lads breaking through at centre-half, Tuanzebe. We've got such a young... Memphis. We've got such a young side that I thought the likes of Schweinsteiger, who's just been injured again today, would come in and be that sort of leader. Now, I think Schweinsteiger's tried to be. He's just not played enough through to his injuries. If Ibrahimovic can do the same thing, and I think there's a lot more to football than just the 90 minutes on a Saturday afternoon as well. I think there's how you conduct yourself in a dressing room, how you conduct yourself on the training pitch. And I think Beckham and Giggs and all of them sort of players, they used to say, and I think the Arsenal players as well, I think like Ray Parlour and that, used to say it about Bergkamp, that when you sit there and you go, well, he's the best player in the team, and he's in his 30s, and when we finish training, he goes out on the training pitch and he practices shooting on his own, or he gets a keeper and one of the apprentices to practice crossing and hitting volleys in and headers and stuff like that in. And that's the sort of thing that rubs off on these young players. These young players are sat there thinking, oh my God, there's Eric Cantona, he's the best player in the team, or there's Dennis Bergkamp, he's already got the best touch in the team, and he's just wanting players to fire balls into him so he can control them and turn. That sort of dedication rubs off on players. And then you end up with a big group of players that are just constantly looking to train more and develop more, and you foster a team spirit and this work ethic, and then you go on and win Champions Leagues. And that could be what the legacy of Van Gaal is, and it could be what one of the master strokes that Mourinho brings in, if he does bring in someone the likes of Ibrahimovic. If he brought in an Aubameyang or a Keane, are they really that much better than what we've got at the club? Yes, they're first choice strikers doing it in Europe at the moment, but would you like to see one of those brought in at the detriment of Anthony Martial and Rashford? I'm not sure I would. I think there's more pressing positions around the team that we need, such as a right winger, arguably a centre half. I think Marcus Rashford's development is going to depend massively on the appointment of the new manager and how he is treated. Pre-season tour for Marcus Rashford could be more important than the next few weeks. And I hate to make a prediction of how far he could go, because it could literally go one way or the other. Next season could come in, he could be a first choice starter, he could be given the number 10 shirt after Rooney gets binned. and he could go on and score 25 goals next year. That's entirely possible looking at the stats that he's got so far. What's also possible is that he goes out on loan to a championship club and never comes back. And I would hate to see that happen. What sets Marcus out from the other strikers that we've seen come through at the club is, and other academy players in general, there's a lot of players in academies get accused of having that street drilled out of them, and they're too nice, and the academy atmosphere is this one of, you have the ball, we have the ball, and then we're going to play football and you're going to play football, and there's not that hard edge to it. That's one of the criticisms labelled at the academy institutions, if you like. Marcus Rashford plays angry. He's got a wonderful temperament and a wonderful attitude. And I want to read something that I wrote about him, actually. This is what I wrote about him back in December. I was framing the class of 2016, and in this class is Angel Gomez, Timothy Fosu-Mensah, Gribbin, Rashford, obviously, Tuanzebe. I think that's it. Is that all six? I think that was all six. Tuanzebe, Gribbin, Rashford, Fosu-Mensah and Gomez. It's 5 of them. So here's what I wrote about Rashford back in December. He possesses terrifying speed, which gives the impression that Marcus is playing angry all the time, but I love the intensity. There's no such thing as a lost ball or a 50-50. If he wants it, he's getting it. If he can take a breath before he takes a shot, he's going to be a nightmare. He already scores a lot, but his aggressive enthusiasm means that some shots he should score, he doesn't. Once he finds that composure, it's game over. And I think we started to see against City, the way he twisted up Demichelis and then coolly stroked the ball into the net. He's starting to develop that sort of composure in front of net. And I think once he really develops his composure, the way he plays the game is unsettling. I've seen, who was it? Reading. We played Reading in the under-21s, and Riley was left back, and Rashford was played the left of the forward three in a 4-2-3-1. And the right fullback, must still be having nightmares about the two of them, because Joe Riley is incredibly intense and he was on him like a dog, and Rashford was on him like a dog, and anytime this poor kid got put in possession, both of them hared him down, and he ended up, every time he got the ball, he was just spooning it into touch and into the crowd. He must be still having nightmares about him. And them two was causing mistakes. They was catching him in possession, they was taking the ball off him. They absolutely rattled this kid, the pair of them, just through sheer determination and dogging him down. And it's rare. And I think that's what's making Rashford so potent in the first team at the moment, is because his enthusiasm is rare. We saw it a little bit with Tevez. He's that sort of just sheer dogged determination where he's just haring after you and he wants the ball. And coupled with the great technique that he's got, his enthusiasm and his aggression, and the natural goal scoring ability that he's got to find. I mean, his goal against Midtjylland, he came from nowhere to get on the end of it. That sort of goal scorer's instinct, I think you've got a real player in your hands. Like I said, summer's going to be massive for him. Let's see how he does on the pre-season tour. If he's in and around contention still, then I think he's going to have a hell of a season, and I hope he does. There's nothing better than seeing a Mancunian in a Manchester United side absolutely smashing it. And Marcus Rashford so far this season, he's absolutely smashed it. So thank you for watching. Stick it in the comments. How good do you think Marcus Rashford could be? How good do you think he is right now? What do you think about that goals to minutes to goal ratio? Because, like I said, it's literally the joint top in the league with Sergio Aguero. How impressive is that? Can he maintain it? Anything you want to talk about with Marcus Rashford or any of the other players coming through? Unfortunately, there's not really many other strikers in the team, and there's no right wingers in the academy at the moment that are really standing out that could come through. So this looks like it could be the end of the line for now. Obviously, we just signed Tai Chong, so that might be another player that I want to look out for next season. So anyway, as I said, thank you for watching. Please help us get to 250,000. I don't have any of the caps here actually, so it's not 250,000 devils that. Please help me get to 7,500, or a long way off, subscribers. I'm giving away 2 hats as soon as I reach 7,500. 2 of the black hats that you've probably seen me wear. I've got 2 of those. One's a small to medium, one's a medium to large. So stick it in the comments what I can do for 10,000, because I'm gonna buy something really cool for somebody when we hit 10,000. Maybe something signed by a player. It depends when I hit 10,000. Help me get to 7,500. I'm on target for where I wanted to be in terms of hits. So thank you to everybody who has subscribed, and if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. And I'll see you soon. Laters.